I ate, and I just remember going, I feel uncomfortable, I'm sick of this body, and I took myself to the toilet, put my finger down my throat and spewed up. And that literally became, I'm not going to say every meal, but most meals for the next, 13, 14, 15 years. And I remember people saying, oh, you look good, you lost heaps of weight. And that became the confirmation that what I was doing was good because now I belong, yeah? So that became my existence. So I drank in excess and just spew 5, 6, 7 times a day. For me, it was, I needed to be a better dad. It didn't matter what I needed to do, how I needed to do it. I needed to be a better dad. The biggest thing that saved me was just breath, time and space. I'll give you an example. Every time I pull up in my car, I've got to give myself 3 minutes. Just sit there, breathe. We are surrounded by excellence. If you go into my kids' Instagram feed, it's bodies that are perfect. So we're here, and excellence is here, and we all think we need to be there. I mean, it starts here, and then it starts just here. I just don't think we take the time and the space to tell people that we love them and why they're amazing. And you're left to figure it out for yourself, and that's pretty hard.
This week on Between Two Beers, we talk to Carl Sheridan. Carl wrote us an email a few months ago that stopped us in our tracks. He's what we call a low-key legend or a community hero who can beautifully articulate what it really means to live a meaningful life. Carl is a performance coach, a designer, the curator and caretaker of the rugby program at Te Awamutu College, and a dad in Pirongia who volunteers 25 hours a week at his local club.
He also has a difficult backstory. He's battled depression, anxiety, and a decade-long eating disorder, and turned that pain into purpose by helping and mentoring many of the next generation of young men in Te Awamutu. Carl is on a mission to inspire others to help in their community by telling local stories so that making a difference doesn't feel out of reach. And we couldn't think of a better use of our platform than to help him share his.
This one's about what it really means to live a good life, and Carl is a champion of a bloke who has deep insight and wisdom to share. And make sure you stick around for Carl's very special Manifesto at the end.
This episode gets into some pretty heavy mental health stuff, including bulimia, anxiety and depression. Take it at your own pace, pause if you need to, and if this brings anything up for you, text or call 1737 anytime. We'll see the support links in the show notes.
This episode is brought to you by our proud sponsors, TAB. Got a hunch? Download the app today and get your bet on. Seamus and I are also stoked to now be in partnership and dressed by Barkers. Check out their range at barkersonline.co.nz.
And last thing before we get into it, we're on a mission to become New Zealand's most trusted storytellers. If you enjoy the podcast, it would mean the world to us if you subscribed or followed wherever you're watching or listening. It genuinely helps us grow, attract bigger and bigger guests, and keep bringing you the best conversations we can. Enjoy.
Carl Sheridan, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
We're stoked to have you. How are you feeling about being in with us today?
Definitely mixed feelings. There's a huge amount of anxiety, stress, nervousness, but I think I woke up this morning calm because I've worked pretty hard in my life to put myself in positions like this, to tell my story, to help people. And so I'm super excited and probably more than anything, extremely grateful to be given the opportunity.
A little bit of a whirlwind sort of 24-hour period because your Coach for Life video went live across Facebook, and I think New Zealand Rugby shared it as well in the last little bit. So how's that going?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I sent a message to my brother with a photo of it and I said, I think I've clocked to life. I've made the NZ Facebook page. The Coach for Life thing it's been an incredible opportunity, and I'm just grateful for whoever reached out and made that all happen. And Coach for Life have been an incredible bunch of people, and that experience was phenomenal.
For someone who's got a great story and you're starting to kind of tell it publicly for the first time, it's a lot. There's going to be this is going to be such a rich episode. I want to kind of give a bit of a backstory into how we got here. So a little while ago, an email landed in our inbox that was pretty special, and it was from Carl, and there was a lot in it, but this part stuck out to us. I'm going to read some. Kia ora, Steve. I want to send a message of thanks, gratitude, and ultimately a desire to one day be on the podcast, not as a celebrity, but as a man of the community, making a difference in people's lives. There is a story behind it all. One thing I've learned over the years is that we often look up and aspire to be like some of the people on your podcast, but we too often miss the very point of being human. Rather than living in a crusade to be famous or rich, we miss the opportunity to live a beautiful life that is fulfilling, joyful, and plentiful. By understanding ourselves, loving ourselves, and being honest with ourselves, we all have something wonderfully unique, beautiful, and inspiring to share with the world. Doing that work and then going out into our own communities to make a positive difference will help turn things around in Aotearoa. My name is Carl Sheridan. I'm a son, brother, father to two incredible young men, and married to quite possibly the most beautiful woman in the world. We live in Pirongia in our 120-metre square house that is our heart and soul. It is a gallery for our life's adventures, and we are on a crusade to make a difference with all that we touch. I've battled eating disorders, bulimia, depression and anxiety, but my greatest mission in life has been to love myself, understand what truly matters to me, and then go out and live it, taking many people along on the journey. I'm a performance coach in sport and life, a designer for a local property development company, an enabler, a rugby coach, and the curator and caretaker of the rugby program at Te Awamutu College. Maybe there is a place on your podcast for our communities and everyday heroes. I'm not claiming to be a hero, but I love what I do for my people and our community, and I would not change it for the world. I feel we need to tell the local stories so making a difference is not out of reach. It is a long shot, I know, but if you do not ask, you do not know. And that was one of the best emails we've received. We're going to talk a bit about identity and values today, and your words hit two of ours. So our purpose is to improve the lives of our audience, and two of our values are connection and community. So I sent the email and the video that we just spoke about to Seamus, and he started crying.
Yeah. I was sitting in the cafe around the corner, and I'd received the email, and I clicked on the video and I watched, and the words that I heard struck a chord with me because they were parts of my own story which were told in a different voice. And I thought to myself, well, if that resonates with me, there's somebody else that has had feelings like I have had, which means if you amplify it out, there's probably a lot of people out there that will be struck by different parts of your story at different times. And I think that's probably the strength of some of what we do here is we don't often realise the ripple effect that some of these conversations can have out in the community. So it was a hell yeah from me, and fast forward, here you are with us in Hamilton.
So that's a bit of background. I want to just start by asking you what made you send the email?
It's a good question. I think in February, I rang my personal trainer, who is now my coach, about my sore foot. And I said, I need a new program. There's something wrong with my body. And he just said, how do you feel? And since then, every week, we've had conversations about feeling, and I've just been on this path, this whole new path of discovery about who I am, which I thought I'd sorted out, but it turns out I haven't. And it's just an evolution, and it's just a constant. And so I got through the end of this rugby season, and I think this time last year when rugby finished, I was like, I'm never going to coach again. I was broken. I was empty. The first thing I could think of was drinking. And I just didn't find, I loved watching the boys succeed, and I loved watching them be fulfilled and joyful and connected and all those other things, but I didn't have that, and I didn't know why. And so the adventure this year has just changed and revolutionized me as a person, my identity. And so the question you ask is about why I email. So because through that path of discovery this year, I have a story to tell to everyone that when you care for yourself, you will make a difference in the world. And I just don't think, I think that I look around, I look at society, I think we've lost the ability to care for ourselves and what actually is that and what does it look like. And then I think we've lost the ability to care for one another. And I know that's a little bit of a generalization. I mean, there are people that care genuinely, don't get me wrong, but when you care for yourself deeply and you give yourself the permission to be who you've always needed to be, then some amazing things happen. And so I just reached out and I just said to you guys, I just wanted to be on a platform where people are heard, and I just wanted the opportunity to tell everyone that it's okay, that you can look inside. You can be vulnerable. You can tell your story. You can search for your values, your why, whatever it is. You can share. You can cry. You can laugh. And it's all just part of it, right? It's part of the adventure of life. And so I just wanted the opportunity to, and I've always been raised to just ask, and because no is a perfectly acceptable answer. Right? And then a lot of the times I actually text people and ask them, I would say, you know that no is a perfectly acceptable answer. Don't feel obliged to have to say yes to a wonderful story or whatever. And I reached out and I thought, hey, if I get that opportunity, that would be bucket list for me. That would be life-changing for me because I get to talk to more and more people about what's important in life.
Yeah, we often get feedback from the audience that they love the low-key. We call these low-key legends. It's people doing epic stuff that you might not have heard about. And yeah, one of the constant themes in the inbox is we want more regular, everyday people. You know, it's not all just celebrities and people that have gone on to conquer the world. Let's hear people that are actually sort of doing it. Okay, so who is Carl Sheridan? I'm going to use some other people's words to help paint the picture. Jo, your wife, described you as a multi-potentialite, which is a term I heard for the first time.
Yeah, I had to Google it, and I'm glad you said it because I didn't know how to pronounce it. I wasn't sure if it was a multi-potentialite.
Did you watch the TED talk about multi-potentialites?
No, it's on. It's bookmarked, ready to roll. But what's the definition?
Yeah, so she said he picks up things quickly. He's a rapid learner, but he gets bored easy. So he can sing, he can play music, he can cook, he can design, he can do anything. But he learns it to about 80% and then he'll go and pick up and learn something new. He just keeps layering these things on top of the skill set, which makes it a really nice mix. There was a common theme from the people we spoke to. He said, you will not find a man that cares more about people and the community than Carl Sheridan. He's got a care factor that's off the dial, and he's such a complimentary person to be around. He's got this real knack of being able to connect with people almost instantly and allow them to open up and to share and to work through whatever they're going through. Your coaching has changed people's lives. We've heard it from multiple people. We'll get into some of that find your why stuff later. I want to read what Jordan Farrington said. He said, Carl shows up at the grassroots with real care for people, from pushing for a Pirongia skate park to pouring himself into Te Awamutu College Rugby Club. He keeps community at the centre. He's even helped our business reset its purpose to be in the community, not just in market. So we give back where we build. The standout is the time and energy he's put into those rugby boys. He backs them, knows them, and treats their growth as the goal. For Carl, rugby is the vehicle, not the point. He's the steady voice, the coffee catch-up, the listening ear, especially for kids from tough homes. He connects through the game, then points to a better path and a fair crack at life. His support goes well beyond training nights. One-on-one, he reads people fast, draws out what matters, and even builds simple tools to help them grow. That mix of care and action is making a clear difference. And you walk the walk. You volunteer 25 hours a week for Te Awamutu College Rugby. That is just a remarkably impressive example of giving back. Do you feel like that summarises you, some parts of you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think it's hard to hear it sometimes.
But it's necessary to hear it too,
Yeah,
right?
100%,
Because
right? That's exactly it. Yeah.
I mean, I think back to when you were saying about how at the end of last season you feel empty and void because you've given so much, but sometimes maybe what you don't see is what gets received by the community that you operate in too. So it's a nice thing to hear some of those things reflected back at times.
Yeah, I thought about this the last couple of days, like I often talk about caring for ourselves and then caring for others. And then I think one of the most important things is to actually talk about things like that, to share those stories with friends. Like how many of your friends actually ring you up and tell you how awesome you are?
I know.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. I think we take it all for granted, everything.
Are you the kind of guy that feeds that forward?
Probably could be better, for sure. Yeah. But I've got mates on WhatsApp and, we'll say, I love you, bro. Yeah. And we share those moments and where it's probably applicable or to the people that it sits right with. I think I'd genuinely have some friends that would just go, well, pardon? But to hear that, it's incredibly humbling. Like Jordan's a wonderful human too, right? and he and I just sit on the same wave together the whole time. We just know what we want to do and how we want to impress on the world. And I won't start talking about Joe just for now because that'll be the end of the podcast for me probably.
Well, just before we move on, what's the latest skill that you're trying to add to your already impressive arsenal?
Oh, that's a good question. Yep. Just I'm in the rabbit hole on time and space. So figuring out time and space is what it means for care, how it is, and how I can live that out every day, and then how I can actually teach that. I've learned the drums, I've learned the guitar. I can kind of sing, I think. I can play golf. I can do all those things, and I love to do those. But the real rabbit hole for me now is like, how do I take all this learning, this self-development, this growth, and go and make an impact in the world?
And a whiz in the kitchen based off some experience in a French chateau?
Yeah, I love cooking, right? So if you talk about creativity, it's not just painting. Like it's never painting for me, to be fair, but creativity is just the opportunity, the time and space, the freedom to kind of do anything. And I've made some shit meals in my life, don't you worry about that. But I like the opportunity to cook. My boys are 16, 17 now, so cooking every night for them, it becomes a little bit repetitive. But given the time and space, cooking is a pretty cool thing. And I went and worked in London for a little bit and worked in some restaurants just doing dishes and bits and pieces, but ended up doing prep work and learning how to chef. And I think if you take an interest and you're curious, like cooking's pretty cool, a lot of fun, yeah.
We're going to work our way to current day Carl, but as we alluded to, there is a story and there's a bit of stuff to understand why you are and why you think the way you do. And there are some difficult and challenging periods, and if you're open to it, we'd love for you to sort of take us back and share the story of Carl.
I always start this conversation, and I've had a number of times with people, but I need everyone to understand that if life was a 100-metre race, I started on the 85-metre line. You know, like my mum and dad are phenomenal people. I remember the first time publicly admitting that my brothers were awesome at my wedding speech. They took me places. They were older than me, 4 and 6 years older. They took me surfing. They looked after me. So yeah, there's no point in this story where I actually didn't have a wonderful life. But when you suffer inside your own head and you don't talk about it, you don't share it, it becomes a fairly big part of your story. And it's not the only part. And I've realised this year that that's not necessarily the case. So that's the starting point. I always been a big kid, right? Love food. And food's a wonderful thing. And I think we used to play undo cricket at a friend's house in the basement, and it was just one dusty night, and I had a bit of an asthma attack, and I didn't have asthma. Well, I didn't think I had asthma. And I lay in bed that night, and I was awake, and I was facing the wall, and I was breathing, and it was pretty horrific. And I remember Mum and Dad standing at the door, and Mum said, is he going to survive the night? And I remember Dad didn't say anything, and they kind of walked away. And I woke up, and the next morning I was really tight-chested, took me down to a doctor, and, and it was the start of this repetitive conversation that I heard. It's like, he needs to take Becotide and Ventolin, and he probably needs to lose a bit of weight.
How old are you at this point?
I was going to say 7 or 8. So in those days, you had to get repeat prescriptions. You had to go back to the doctor. It wasn't as easy as it is today. And so you go back to the doctor, and it's the same freaking story every time, And then I had an asthma attack at school in 7th form, about mid-semester break, and I ended up in hospital. I didn't really remember the story that well, but it's come to me now. And when I left the hospital, I checked out. The nurse or doctor, I can't quite remember, she just said, look, you need to lose some weight. You know what, man, I wasn't even that big, really. Like, this is bullshit. But this is the story, and it became cumulative. And I don't blame anyone for this, because this is just what happened, and we're here now, right? Like, and some of I guess, like, if I reflect and I'm anchored just in that negativity story and celebrate all the other parts of my wonderful life, my weight became the central part of my life. It was a celebration. If I lost weight, I remember one school holidays, Nigel made me lettuce sandwiches and said, get on the scales, and it just became cumulative. And after the asthma attack, kind of halfway through the second half of the year, I came home, I broke down to Mum and just said, look, this is not right, I want to lose some weight. And we went to a nutritionalist, and they gave me just this daily brochure of just what you can and can't eat. And it was really directive and really specific, and it wasn't actually education. It wasn't the building blocks of what nutrition is and what should be for a young man. Lost heaps of weight, it was amazing. Looked cool. Put my tiger jacket on, which, if anyone that's listening from New Plymouth Boys, how deeply cared that jacket is. Got to prize giving, wonderful. And then I went down to Massey University, and guess what? There's no locks on the cupboards there, and it was horrific. I think in the first semester, Mum and Dad picked me up from Palmerston North, went up to Gisborne for my cousin's 21st, and I remember pretty vividly the conversations, or the natter in the background about how big I'd got. Being short, carrying weight was not easy, and then came back to university, and that first week, that first night, that first meal, I remember the meal. It was pork schnitzel, loaded up, had potatoes, had a whole lot of broccoli, cauliflower, and more potatoes. And I ate, and I just remember going, I feel uncomfortable, I'm sick of this body. And I took myself to the toilet and put my finger down my throat and spewed up. And that literally became, I'm not going to say every meal, but most meals for the next, 13, 14, 15 years. It's all a little bit vague now in terms of the timing. It was pretty horrendous. But what actually happened was I spent like a semester doing that, and then I remember buying this golf jersey, a Lyle and Scott jersey. I remember going to university one day, and I was dressed in my jeans, and I felt really proud of my body, and I felt like I I felt wonderful about how I looked. And I remember people saying, "God, you look good, you lost heaps of weight." And that became the confirmation that what I was doing was good because now I belong, yeah? And it was like, cool, that's going to be my existence. And that became my existence. So I drank in excess and just spew 5, 6, 7 times a day.
Did anybody know? How did you were keeping this secret from people? Did you let anybody in on what was happening?
Not one person. I think the day I declared my major problem with Joe, a penny dropped on a whole lot of little bits and pieces. She thought I think there were some memories of hers that she's like, oh, okay, this actually makes some sense now. Yeah.
So you're saying 15 years. So this is through university, early adult life.
Yeah, courting my wife, travelling, having children.
Was there a routine to it? Did you do it in the toilet? Like where did you?
Just wherever I needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you become really good at covering your tracks, man. Like it's, it just became a belief system in my body, right? And the worst day, it wouldn't be the worst day, but it's probably the greatest kind of sick memory I have of myself in this and how bad it really was we would go on to Tauranga to catch up with Monty and Lenny, good friends of ours, great friends of ours, and we watched the Cronulla Warriors. I think it might have been a semi-final one of those days, and we had fish and chips and beers, and I snuck off in the lounge in that house. And that was actually his mate's house and his parents' house, and I did then. And I'd had this like ultimate goal that I needed to be less than 90 kilos. Like 90 kilos was like the wonderful space to get under, right?
Fucking number.
Yeah.
A fucking number.
Yeah, and we're going to get into numbers because I think like numbers are killing everything. But I got back to, I went to the gym the next morning and I was like 90.5 kilos. I was like, and I'd gone to Tauranga less than 90. And the punishment for the next 3 hours was horrific. Like I ran on the treadmill. This doesn't even make sense. Like, I ran on the treadmill, I was drinking while I was drinking on the treadmill. Then I'd go to the toilet and spew up the water and come back to the treadmill, get on the scales. Thirsty, drink some water, run, spew. Like, got to the point where I got under 90 kilos in 3 hours. I'm not a fucking jockey. Anyway, I leave the gym. My best mate who owns the gym, as I was leaving, goes, "Man, you look good. You worked hard today." Boom. Thank you. External gratification. Confirmation that what I'm doing is right. I left that gym less than 90 kilos, but didn't have any idea how broken I really was.
What does that impact have on your everyday life when you're living a life like that? Are you like what energy levels? And it's just such a foreign concept to try and step into the shoes of and understand.
Yeah, I've never reflected on that, to be fair, James. That's actually a really good question. I think, we're wired to survive, right? I think my adrenals were shot. My entire body, like by the time I actually got to therapy and got to a naturopath, I was bent and broken, way out of shape internally. But you just fight. You just fight to survive. You fight for everything that you have, And that's all you know, right? You just survive. And you're not living. You're not living, you're surviving, right? And that's a big catchphrase with the work that I've been doing in the last 5 or 6 months. You're not searching, surviving, Carl, we're living. Yeah.
So where's the turning point in this journey with an eating disorder? How do you get yourself out of that?
Yeah, it was just one morning I woke up and decided it was probably not good for me. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I did. The boys were, I think Jacob might have only just been born. It's a little bit fuzzy. Sorry, guys. I remember waking up and going, right, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I'm not suggesting for a second that it's been perfect ever since. I'll give you that right now. Like, there's been lapses pretty bad. But when I did decide, what ended up happening was I lost complete control of myself, because forever I was able to spew up, lose enough weight or see myself in the mirror, look good and belong. And then get people around me to say, hey, you look good. And that was my existence. And I was trying to raise a family. Now, the very thought of surviving and survival will do whatever you need to do. I would never have compromised my children. But when you're at that point, it was pretty sad. And so I just woke up one day and said, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's not good for me, right? And so then I lost control. I had to eat again regularly without spewing up. I had to kind of walk up and down the hallway and walk past the toilet and go out the door and go for walks. And then because I put on weight, I had to fight all that on my own. It's just horrific, eh? And then I got angry. And, I never harmed my children, but I definitely spoke to them, and I definitely regret some of the things I said. One day in particular, I remember Joe was at work, and I rang Penny Brown, a great friend of ours, and I just said, "Penny, can you come look after the boys?" To be fair, today, if Penny was ever, she wouldn't even know what was happening. She just came around and looked after the boys, and I went for a walk for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I got to a point where I was pretty close to maybe raising my hand. Yeah, and then, so I lived with that, and then I remember, because I'm such a wonderfully peaceful person and give to everyone, Joe's career was really important to us, and I needed to support her to do that. But I didn't want to compromise that. So I stayed at home and looked after the children. So I'm a 20-something, 30-something male, whatever it is, I'm raising kids and I'm washing real nappies and sterilising bottles, and I'm just in tears the whole time.
Is that denting your masculinity, your feeling of providing, or are you...
Yeah, I think in reflection, I can definitely say that. At the time, I'm just like, oh, this is fucking average. I was just miserable. And then we'd go out with our friends and I could put on a mask and drink and be happy, and I was central to everyone's party, and everyone's, oh, you must be a Leo, and I'm born in August. Yeah, they're wicked. The car was still the life of the party. Go home empty all the time. Anyway, it all changed one day, and I was out in the Sandpit with the boys, and this is kind of like 3 or 4 years later, I think. And I'll go back. I remember on the eve of Joe going back to work after maternity leave with Sam, the night before she went back to work, she goes, "You good for tomorrow?" No. I just broke down. She's like, what the... And she had no idea. And I think then she really suspected that there was some mental stuff going on. And, for the coming weeks, I just survived. And then that day in the Sandpit was probably and I'd seen a bit of JK stuff, really. Like, if I ever got an opportunity to talk to him about what he did and what he was able to put into our national television and to be able to be seen and heard, it was phenomenal. And
it's okay not to be okay?
Yeah, and all of that. Yeah. Well, no, it was just 0800 Depression Hotline. It was just right. Just reach out. And so I was in the Sandpit with the boys, and they were just playing, and I was just miserable. I was just crying. And that was kind of my existence at the time. And I had some part-time work, and I'd kind of gone into self-employment stuff, but I wasn't really overly excited about doing any of that. And Jacob, and he was 3 years old, and he came up, put his arm around me, and said, "You don't need to cry. It's okay." And that day was like any other day. Joe had gone to work, and for some reason she turned around and came home. I think she might have forgotten something, but I don't recall. But she'd pulled up, and we had some big wooden gates, and you couldn't be bothered opening because they were a pain in the ass. And I remember her opening and coming over, and she saw me, and she came over, and she said, "I think it's time to you go and ring someone." So I just went inside and rang 0800 Depression Hotline and started a conversation. About 3 or 4 days later, I went to my naturopath, a guy here in Hamilton, a phenomenal human being as well, and he just said, "How are you?" And I just said, "Oh, I'm all right." And he just put a whole lot of needles in me, and it was just a really peaceful place, and I could go away and just disappear. And I said, "How are you, Grant?" And he just started talking, and it just really resonated with me. And I just said, "Who are you talking to?" And he just said, "Oh, this lady." And I got her number, and then we just I plucked up the courage after about 3 or 4 days. I think we were down Taranaki, and we were walking around my old primary school, Woodley School, and I just sat down and I rang Wendy and just said, "Would you like to come and see? Can I come and see you?" And she said, "Yeah, next week. Sounds good." And that was the start of kind of journey of rehabilitation, coaching, therapy. And I spent, it was every week for a few weeks, every 2 weeks for a while, every month, and then it became quarterly, and then I thought I had it all sorted, but that's not necessarily the case.
When you're making those initial steps into talking to someone, is it the fact that someone is listening without judgment? Is that what gives you the initial comfort, or what gives you what does give you that initial comfort?
For me, it was I needed to be a better dad. So I just kind of it didn't matter what I needed to do, how I needed to do it. I needed to be a better dad. Jo was going great things with her career, and I just knew that my experience with my father being the most incredible human being, that I was letting the team down. And I remember having arguments with Jo. She's like, I need you to step up, you know. I need you to be present. I need, you know, like, and so, you know, I'm forever grateful for my own courage to go. And just, and the thing with Wendy was, it was really interesting, like we never talked about bulimia. We just talked about brain function, and that's where my passion and love for psychology became apparent. And I just really wanted to deep dive in that and go, well, why does my brain work like that, and how does it work like that? And so the actual therapy I went through and the rehabilitation was also just a deep learning of humans and myself, yeah.
Did it take you long? How long did it take you to realise how broken you were?
Once I was at therapy?
Yeah.
About 4 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. So I walked in, we introduced each other. I sat down on the couch. She turned around and just started drawing on a whiteboard. She turned around, I was just a fucking ball of mess. I was just crying. And what she'd drawn was just, it was a really, really simple overthinking. The infinity symbol, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. And just, you know, and I've always talked about when you overthink and then eventually it explodes. She just drew it, and then she was just talking and sort of commentating as she was drawing. And I just that was me.
Do you spend a lot of time in your own head still?
No. And that's a wonderful transformation for me, is to go from like so much self-doubt. There are periods, don't get me wrong, but to go from just noise the entire time.
And more often than not, negative noise?
All. Low self-esteem, low self-worth, take your own life, you know, go to places like, where can I be up? Like just thinking the whole time. And it just, because what we don't realise is, you know, scientifically, like the human brain consumes 20% of our daily calories just to operate, right? And then if you overthink, it's enormous. The taxing that takes on your body, and all of a sudden nutrients comes down and your mineral come down, and then your bone density changes and your heavy metal poisoning goes through. And then I was, you know, Wendy did say to me, like, one of the first things I want you to do is go and see a naturopath. And so I went and saw a naturopath, and I mean, I know that doctors don't necessarily believe in it, but, you know, Chris was a big part of saving me, because I was just so bent out of shape.
Was that about establishing a better relationship with food? What was it specifically about that?
So my general well-being, like he gave a score out of 100, my general well-being was like 45 or 50 or something. My stress levels were through the roof. It was just, I had low levels of salmonella, so I was constantly on the toilet. To the point where Sam one day at the skate park said, Dad, why do we always have to go to the toilet when we're out? I was just sick, really, really sick. I don't know how else to answer. It was just horrific. Yeah.
How long ago was that first appointment with the therapist?
So we've been in about 12, 13 years ago.
12, 13 years ago.
Yep.
So help me understand the path out of there, because I want to sort of link you up to some of the stuff you're doing. But was it about understanding identity? Was it about learning who you were? Like, what were the steps that you got out of that sort of deep dark hole?
Yeah, okay. So the first thing for me was just understanding how the human brain worked, like actually just learning some basic psychology and stuff. And then it became around identity. So once we'd gone through some timelining, so I actually, like, in a semi-hypnotic state, went through my past and re-experienced all of the moments where I was teased over like a period of weeks. And then I think the greatest learning I got was just awareness. So I was able to have a level of awareness of my thinking, and then being able to have a choice or a decision at that point in time to do something about it. So whether that be go and talk to a friend, or go back to Wendy again, or write something down. I think up until that point, it was just all in here. And if you know anything about the mouse on the wheel, it just keeps going and going, and then it just explodes. So the path out was more about building awareness. And then it went into identity, which is kind of like who am I after all of this? And if I go back to the original thing I said about like the race for 100 metres and starting on the 85 metre line, I'd just forgotten about how wonderful my life was. I literally forgot how incredible the people in my life were, how talented I was, how special I am as a human being. I mean, I paid no attention to me. All I did was I anchored myself in that existence, and that was everything. And so the 14, 15 years it is to today has just been a bit of a journey about going, who is Carl? What am I good at? What am I about? What are the things I love? And then trying to live that on a daily basis. And it hasn't been very easy, to be fair. So that's, and then at the same time, in parallel to that, I'm doing some work around design and marketing, and I'm exploring people's whys, and I'm using that why as a kind of basis to design a brand. So I'm learning psychology about myself, and then I've got this over here, and these things have started to weave together, and I figured out that I think for my new belonging in the world was I'm going to go and give you your why, you're going to feel great about it, and I'm somehow going to get something from that. But it's still never really dealt with who I was as a human being.
Do you find you're able to construct parts of your own identity by helping others clarify theirs? Does that send you into a reflective state afterwards of...
No.
Okay.
Not to be just... it's interesting you say that, because I just started to live vicariously, right? It's like, I can see you're suffering, and hey, cool, I can help you out. And you go, good. I'm like, cool, that's good for me. But that was just a mask. That was, and then all through that, I'm still drinking and still partying. I'm still the central life of everyone's party. And I've still got this real high energy. But if you know anything about high energy, there's always a low energy, right? And so my frequency would be really, really good and buzzy. I was designing, and a lot of the stuff I was creating, whether it be the Hell Pizza projects and all those other wonderful things I've done, that was done under pressure. And at the end of designing or creating out of pressure is just a mess. And so I would just go and hide again. The work I do with people was just a way of externally filling my cup. Yeah.
I want to just talk about Jo. I'm going to bring her voice in soon, but I had a conversation with you the other day, and you spoke about how when you were finding out the stuff about your identity and learning who you are, you realised there was a chance it might mean that she wasn't the right person for you.
Yes. Yeah, that was confronting.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us about like Jo's role in all of this?
So Jo is like the most precious thing in the world. So Wendy kind of said to me, look, if you're going to embark on this new adventure and you're going to find out who you are, then the life that you already have might not be the life that's you. I don't think I've ever been confronted with something so scary in my life, because I think for a long time I glued to Jo, and Jo was here. Like, I'm looking up to you, and you are everything, and I'm going to go on this adventure with you. So she was my leader, for want of a better term. And so Wendy says this, and I go, okay, cool. I'm going to have the courage to have this conversation. I know I need to be a best father. So the boys are young, and I need to be a father. That's, Jo's a strong woman. She can survive if I'm not there. So I had the courage, and I went home, and I remember Hamilton back to Pirongia, like 25, 30-minute drive. I was driving home, and I needed to pluck up the courage to have this conversation with Jo. I thought, sweet, I'm going to go home. I'm going to admit that I have an eating disorder. I'm going to tell her everything about it, that it existed while we were overseas, that we existed when we were best mates at university, existed while we got together, when we had our children, and all's going to be well. But I have to go there with the genuine thought that Jo might not stick around for the rest of the project or the process, Get home, there's a car in the driveway. I'm like, who's that? Get inside, it's the bank manager. So we were building a house at the time. I'm like, so I sat there in the lounge for like an hour and a half talking to the bank manager with Jo. And then the bank manager lady, Jo said, how's your day? How's therapy? I just opened up and I talked to her, and I remember sitting, and we had this little rental just not far from where we're living now, and I was just in the floor, and I literally sat in a ball with my arms around my knees, just rocking and crying. And she held me. And then I had to talk about that whole thought that you're not the right person, possibly not the right person for me. And she just, and this is the wonderful thing about Jo, she just said, regardless of what happens, you are the father of our children. I will give you whatever you need, time and space. I'd rather you be present. I'd rather be the best version of you for our children, and our relationship will be what it'll be. And I could probably never be any more grateful for that. So it's kind of ironic because even though Joe's like this highly task-driven person, every day's a list, she actually afforded me the time and space to go and explore myself. And I wore some weird shit clothes. I went to op shops. I started growing moustaches with twirls and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. She did look at me sideways a few times. But I just never had the opportunity to kind of explore that. She did one day say, oh, I wish you did this earlier. I was 33, 34, but, and ironically, I land here today and it's time and space. That is everything to me. That is essentially what it's all about. Everything I've worked towards, everything I've built, everything I've wanted to do in this world comes down to care equals time and space. And like I said, Joe gave me that time and space. I think it was 2017, 2018. I'd gone through some recovery stuff and I'd really kind of stepped into a role in our home as a leader. And I'm a real gift person and Joe's not a gift person. So if you know languages of love, like Joe really let me down a few birthdays.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. But she'd love it if I ticked a few things off the list, right? So that's okay. That's good. That's kind of how our existence works, right? But and she hated buying gifts for me because I just like, oh, whatever, yeah. But 2017, I think it was, and she bought me this. Probably the greatest gift ever because she got it handcrafted by a local down Te Awamutu. And I opened it and I could see what it was and what it meant.
For those listening.
Yeah.
It's a punamu, right?
Oh, yeah, punamu. Sorry for those listening. Yeah, it's which stays close to my heart. And I just said to her, what is it? What does it mean? That you have to give a punamu and it comes with a whole lot of bits and pieces. And she said it was crafted for you to be the leader of our home. And she kind of almost said, welcome to being the leader of our home and we can't wait to follow you in life. And so, it was incredibly moving. But at the same time, it was still just the start of the adventure. And, here we are 8-9 years later and still trying to grow and still trying to evolve and still trying to figure it all out. Yeah.
Time and space is an interesting concept in a world where everything is fast-paced.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like maybe I don't feel sometimes that I have time and space to do things. I'm sure a lot of people watching or listening don't feel like they have time and space. It's go, go, go. That's sort of the expectation. So how do you currently carve out time and space?
Yeah, you got to be really purposeful about time and space. Like it's not an easy thing to do. And every day is a busy day, right? But I remember going to a friend of ours' 40th and he'd been through a recent marriage breakup and his 40th speech was like, get your head out of your phone, look around. So the first thing I do is just look at how much time you're spending on your phone. Like it's 3.5, 4 hours on average. Teenagers, 5.5, 6 hours, if not more. Do some math. That's a lot of time in your life, But for me, time and space is I'll give you an example, right? Every time I pull up in my car, I've got to give myself 3 minutes. Just sit there, breathe. Because every situation I'm presenting myself might require something different from me or something different about me. So Steve text me when you arrive here this morning. I said, cool, I'm just going to catch my breath in the car. So I've got to be really, really deliberate about that stuff. What we do is we know how we talk about go, go, go. We just become autonomic, right? We become robotic and we just go, 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 go. And for me, if I did that and I do that continuously, and the adrenaline takes over and it's just awesome. And it's like, I remember being in hospitality in London and I remember it just being at the cafe that we owned and I remember it being you get to the very end and it's like, in a flash, it all just disappears and you're standing on the island by yourself and you're like, wow, where did everything go? And so time and space for me starts every morning, whether it be meditation, whether it be breath, whether it be movement, whether it be walk with a dog with Joe, whether it be just going outside, standing on the deck, looking at the sky. It's just time and space.
Did I see something or research something where you hesitate before you put your feet on the floor, before you get out of bed? Is that something you still do?
Yeah, very purposefully. Yeah, I think it's a Bowen therapist that I've seen, Vicky in Pirongia. She's an amazing human being. You just tip to the side of the bed and just wait 1 or 2 seconds, hit the feet on the ground together collectively at the same time, and it's just about bringing a certain level of deliberateness and purposefulness to that day. And in our bedroom, our wardrobe's right there, and on it's our kind of our manifesto stuff on some whiteboard, and it's an opportunity just to spend that small moment with yourself. And it becomes a process, and it becomes a system, and it feels and it sounds probably to the listeners that it's a little bit bloody boring, but it's the thing I need to do to be the best version of myself. I've given to everyone my entire existence, my entire life. When do I give to myself? And people ask me that often. It's like, you're so good and you're so caring and you love me. When do you give to yourself? And I mean, that's another whole conversation, but it starts in the morning. It starts with that very first moment. And this morning it was just, we recently put down our family dog, Bella, and that's been hugely traumatic for Joe and I. Like, I didn't realise how much I loved an animal. But we've got another dog left, MJ, and it's kind of like a really interesting example of life. It's like it's taken a trauma for me to recognise and take that other dog and how special she is. And so every morning, like this morning, I got up, walked out, let her out, and just gave her a massive hug. And she's hilarious. She thinks it's brilliant. But then took her outside. We just stare up at the sky, and she just throw a ball, whatever, for a couple of times. And it's just that. It doesn't need to be so regimented by rules, right? Like, we don't have to be governed by anything other than just give ourselves some time and space. And then the time and space thing then becomes a react and respond thing. So I've got the opportunity to respond rather than react. Because when I react, that's when my life gets out of kilter. There's quite a difference, If you're driving a car, you know what road rage is like, right? You get to and you react. It's like, just respond. What happened to that person in their life? Where did they just come from? What are they doing? Where are they, And I think if we all afford ourselves that time to think, to breathe, and then act, we'll be in a much better place.
Is this a collection of ideas that you've handpicked along your way?
Oh, yeah.
And moulded to suit your circumstance?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I'm a collector of all things. Like Joe said, I'm a rapid learner. It's like, cool. And I think that's a wonderful thing about being a multi-potentialite. It's like, cool, I've got that. Cool. Next. What's next? And it's kind of bolting me together. But for me, it's building an arsenal of tools to help different people through different situations, through different parts of life. And whether it's a pro golfer I'm working with or a guy who's running a business, I've just got the tools and the skills to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to connect that. Thank you for sharing so much of your story. Like, I know it can be quite confronting and hard to sort of tell this publicly to all the people listening. But I want to use that as the frame to, your initial email to us was, I want to come on the show and I want to talk about how to be better in the communities and the importance of care. And I'm keen to understand, is it because of what you've been through and how you figured out how to make yourself better that you want to impart that wisdom, like on the kids at Te Awamutu College and the rugby clubs you're working with? Is that kind of the connection to helping the community, or has that always been there? Like you and Joe, from everyone we've spoken to, you're so community-minded about actually, putting your hand up and chipping in. How does that link? How do those things link together?
I think there's a couple of things there. I think first and foremost, my mum and dad were quite strong community people. Dad worked in a low-margin business called Fletcher Steel for many, many years, and I think he's definitely 1 year from just the relationship management, because when you're in a low-margin business, it's all about personal relationships. And he talked and always said to us that relationships are important. And when he retired, I think some of his ex-clients, like one of them, bought a golf cart that he could use. And like the strength and the bond of a relationship is amazing. And then Mum, 2 weeks ago, Mum got awarded a life membership for Westtown Golf Course in New Plymouth after 42 years of service.
Oh.
We were brought in. And my dad was like, man, my dad's an incredible human. Like, he was not highly gifted at sport, and I apologise, Dad, if you're listening, but he always coached and he always offered to coach. And so we just knew that was kind of a role. So there's that. And then you layer in Joe, because Joe was brought up on a dairy farm, and they milked cows, they bred rabbits for meat, they milked goats, they went horses, they did eventing, and they just knew that in their community in South Taranaki how important it was that you all pitched in and worked together to make a community work. And so she brought that in. And then at the same time, I've got like all of this experience with my own life and suffering and stuff. And I'm like, man, I cannot have a kid suffer like I have. You know, we put so much emphasis on numeracy and literacy, but do we actually talk to kids about emotional awareness, emotional vocabulary, and then a responsibility to scan and look inside yourself and go, hey, who am I, where am I going? And so all of those things, Steve, just kind of just weave together. I think up until this year, it's literally been driven through, I don't want those kids to suffer. Whereas now there's a little bit of that, but also like, this is the coolest thing you could do on earth. And I'll give you an example. End of last year, just wanted to never coach again, ended it. The work that I've done this year about time and space and recognising my contribution to the world and actually making and having my own trumpet to blow. We played our final game at Rugby by the Beach over at Papamoa. We played Manukura in the last game for third, fourth. And it's historically the year 13's last game together, and so it's a really big thing. And I reckon there's a couple of special moments in there for me as a human being. It was one at halftime, Will and my other coach looked to me and says, we're not going out at halftime, let's leave it to the boys. And they did. And the young boys who came back off, and I said, how was the chat? And they're like, they're fucking locked in. Yeah. And we won. And, you know, in that little moment, I'm proud of me and my contribution to my kids, my community, and everything that lives around that, rather than being empty from just making sure no one suffers. Right? They're very different lenses, very different narratives. And then at the end of that game, when they won, everyone walked on, the boys were hugging and celebrating, and I sort of walked on about 10 paces, and I stood there, and I bawled my eyes out, and I said these things, and I genuinely say this, and this is no disrespect to the people that were with me or part of me on this journey. I fucking did this. I built this. I'm a part of that. I'm fucking proud of myself. And that changes everything, because now it's not about just solving someone's suffering. It's about fulfillment and joy for me, and look what can happen as a result. I hope there's a difference. There definitely is for me, and those two things were. And then the community stuff, obviously, Steve, like once you have young kids, you know, you embed yourself in their lives. We're not helicopter parents by any stretch, but we definitely want to be a part of their existence. We want to be a part of the community they grow up in. We want to be part of the school. Joe's on the board, and I'm running the rugby program with some other great, wonderful parents. And wherever they go and whatever they do, we want to be a part of their journey. Like our family wires live life through adventure. It's another story, but you come into our house and one of our walls is just all the photos of our adventures together. So our investment is just to be in our community, to bring people with us, and then the power of people will basically ignite it.
I want to talk about raising young men. I mean, you're in there, right? You're first 15 Te Awamutu. We've got lots of stuff to talk about, but I want to bring you there through the voice of Joe. So she said, I think he used to do these things not knowing the value that he was having, but realizing the impact that either one individual can have, and that care-based mentality with coaching has really opened up a whole world for him. We're dealing with less and less volunteers wanting to come in and coach our kids. We've got less teachers that have the capacity or the time or the skills to be involved in that. Our experience is they go through secondary school where they go into these sports environments where you've got lots of transient coaches, transient teachers, and they lose that stability that comes from a community that owns a club. We've got these kids that are transitioning from club sport to schools, and they get chucked in there for 5 years and they come out on the other side. They're expected to go back into club sport again. What we've realised is there's this big period of time where these children are so vulnerable and at risk. For boys, it's about making good decisions. For girls, often we lose them. They just stop playing sport. And sport is the ticket to attendance. It's the ticket to belonging. It's the ticket to contribution, and it's slipping away from us. I think Carl gets that, and he knows that you don't have to be the world's best coach. You just have to care. I think he really wants to make sure that message gets out there, that we just need people that care for our kids. And when those kids feel loved and they feel like they belong and they know what they can contribute, then they really start to shine. Carl is really good at getting kids to be able to see their best versions of themselves, and I think he just wants to be able to share that message.
Maybe we should have got Joe on the show. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's I think only this year I've realised how much of a difference I make in the world. It's pretty cool, eh? Like, it's just, and we've got the most phenomenal bunch of kids. And I think if you see them in a different lens, or you see them from a school point of view, or behavioural, or uptown, or rest of it, you're quick to judge, man. You react. You don't respond. And when you give time and space to those beautiful human beings who might not have been afforded the start line that we had, but John and I, like, we're not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but we are people who want to make a difference in the world. And there's people that just don't get a chance. You know, we've got amazing people, like the people I coach with. I mean, we're all, you know, I'm here as a representative. I'm not here for Carl Sheridan. I'm here as a representative of the people who care, you know. We've got a young boy, no shoes. Willem, the other coach. Cool, what size are you? I'll find you some. Like, this is just, but we just don't have the number of people anymore. I saw this incredible, like, little cartoon of like a bank teller desk, and there's 4 lines, and there's one that says lines for complaints. It's just like the lines out the door, line for volunteers, there's like no one. And that's what it's like, man. 20, 25 hours a week I put into that program, we still get complaints. They're front and centre.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Oh, wow. That's why, and if I can be deeply honest, part of my motivation to be here was that. It's like, just give us the time and space. Like, we're going to make mistakes, right? And we go back to the number, right? The number metrics, everything's right, wrong. It's, no, we're emotion. We're built in emotion. We've got this massive grey area. We just got to, and we're all kind of navigating the grey for life, aren't we? Like, there's no right or wrong answer to any of it. But we do have the opportunity to build communities. And if you think about humans, we were part of the food chain, we got eaten, right? So we developed communities, and guess what we did? We supported each other, looked after each other, and that's how we're sitting here today. We had men that went to war and lost life. You know, like, you think about the communities that those people went through and so I'm not asking for everyone to be a head coach and give up 25 hours a week. What I'm asking you to do is give time and space. And time and space might be just to allow us to try and make something incredible for these children and go, hey, cool, I can give you 1 or 2 hours a week. Or I can, you know, that frustrates me. Carl, can I have a quick conversation with you? Yeah, I'd love to. And I've always given the people the opportunity. Don't complain. Get on board. Be a part of this. Like, we're so self-indulgent. We're so self-driven, for me, that we forget that we actually are here today because communities is what makes it work. You know, and everyone says it takes a village to raise a child, right? Like, it's genuinely true. And, man, our Te Awamutu College rugby boys and girls, they've got a pretty special program and a bunch of people that are in after that. We've got 160 plus people in that program, only 6 teams, which for a single small co-ed college in town is pretty cool.
Because it's not just about the first 15, right?
No, not at all. No, we do a development program. This year's wonderful. Like, we've got the Sevens coming up this weekend. We've got 18, 20 boys. We've got 2 boys from Te Awamutu Sports Club come down and coach the junior boys. What I'm loving the most, man, out of all of this is I can now watch some of this stuff. I'm like, I don't think anyone believed what I was talking about and how strong that community could be if we build it. And I know Joe said that rugby is the vehicle, but once you build it and people start to come and people start to see the value in it, then it's got a life of its own, and that's exciting. Yeah.
There's a concept, care-based coaching, which has been introduced here, but what does that actually mean?
Okay. So for most people, care, they think it's all hugs and cuddles and bubble wrap. It's not at all for me. You know, if I care for you, Seamus, if you become my best mate and you've been a dick, I will tell you you're being a dick.
That's very likely to happen if we end up being friends.
I do care based on coaching with Seamus.
But it's at the same time when and Gilbert Anoka put it in his book, and I'm not sure it was on the check or not, but reading the room and having the intuition to see change, right? That's what care-based coaching is. So I'll give you an example, and hopefully it makes sense. And Steve, again, in rugby, I had a boy, we were training one night, chopped the ball 5 or 6 times out on the way. So naturally, if you're a performance-based coach or a coach in sport, the first thing you're going to do is I need to teach that kid how to catch the ball, right? But if you're care-based and genuine, so you're like heartfelt, and I'm like, okay, cool. There's a reason he's dropping the ball because last week he didn't. Now he has. So you'll go up and you'll just put your arm around him and you'll find a moment to have a conversation. You won't pull the team together and say, we need to catch the ball and drop balls are running and all the rest of it. Like, that's just not what care-based coaching. Care-based coaching is going and talking to this boy and say, hey, you okay? And he said to me, oh, no, I'm a little bit sick. A bit of a sniffle. I said, oh, okay. You look a little bit tired. I said, are you sleeping okay? He's like, oh, not really. I won't disclose too much, but he's had a pretty serious time in life in the last 12 months. And I just said to him, like, I said, weren't you a bit sick last week? And he's like, oh, I've been sick for 3 or 4 weeks on and off. And I'm like, okay, cool. So in my mind, like, I care, right? So I understand how the body works. And so I'm like, okay, obviously your immunity is a bit shot, okay, because you're susceptible when your immunity is down. You don't get a cold from being cold. You get hypothermia, but when you're getting sick...
Thank God you said that. That's one of the things that pisses me off when people say that it's cold, so I've got a cold. You don't get a cold from being cold.
Yeah, you're just susceptible by the immunity being down. So I've said to him, okay, cool. Can you take me through your eating? Oh, I'm not really eating much at the moment. Okay, cool. Can I help with that? So you're always giving that question. You're always giving them the option for your assistance. You're not saying you should, because I hate that. You should. You're asking for an invitation to help. And he said, yeah. I talked. I said, okay. So by the end of it, mate, he was going to bed at 10, looking on his phone till 11 or 12, if not 1 or 2, getting up late, not eating, dragging a sorry ass to school, surviving school, the whole time overthinking because of the life situation. And then we wrapped around him and we've gone, hey, cool. How about you put your phone down? How about you talk to me? So he put it in the following Saturday. I caught up with him and I said to him, how'd you sleep in this week? He's like, I actually did what you said. I put my phone away and I've actually slept really well. I feel way better. But that's what care-based coaching is, okay? And at the same time, if you see a change of behaviour that you don't like, you need to go in and send in and say, hey, look, these are our standards. These are our values. When you're here, this is not about you. This is about the greater good and the values that we all need to invest in.
What are some of those non-negotiables that you have for your program?
Well, the easiest thing for us to do was just follow the school values of the values of the school, which was respect, relationships, responsibilities. And then they've got an awesome behavioural matrix in the school, and we kind of developed the one within our rugby program. One of my pet peeves is swearing. It's just, I'll swear, and we all swear. But the thing is, hey boys, you just swear when I can't hear you, or swear within yourselves. But young boys, they swear out loud to look cool amongst their mates. I go up and I remember I went down to the under-15 training. It was their last training captain's run before a game at St. Peter's. They were all yahoo and they were all swearing and all the rest of it. And they came up, they all come and shake my hand every time because I go down and unlock the changing rooms, and then they all come up and shook my hand. One of the boys in particular said, if you're going to be a part of my program, you're going to stop swearing. He's like, oh, what? I said, yeah, no place for it here, mate. And he makes a really strong effort and a concerted effort now. He always shakes my hand, looks in the eye, and he's like, he knows. And then I ended up just chatting with him and then sent a couple of texts around some behavioural stuff at school, and big improvement.
You must have instances over the last couple of years where you've come across some really challenging circumstances, and rugby's been something that somebody has held on to. In as much or as little detail, do you want to share some of the lessons maybe you've learnt from some of your players? I know your players pick up lessons from you, but what do you pick up or learn from the people that you get to work with in that school environment?
Yeah, probably the most important thing is I probably took for granted where we all start on that race. Like I genuinely, I don't know, I just thought we're all school kids and hey, we get on and play rugby together, and it's like, nah, man, like every single person is a different human being, and it's really, really evident when you go, I'm going to care for these kids like they're my own. And so the biggest lesson for me is definitely just like you are on your feet the whole time. You are thinking about them. You're reading that room. You're looking at changes of behaviour, and then you are responding to that stuff. And so you're allowing yourself the time to go and go, hey, cool, how can I? And so I could tell you right now, of the 26 boys that we've used over the past 12 months in that first 15, I could tell you their brand story. And they've given me great lessons too, because I asked for feedback. I asked for direct and honest feedback, and some of the boys gave me some pretty direct and honest feedback. You're way too intense. So I like it. I love it. So there's always lessons. And I think if we've talked enough today already about how I'm really, really open-minded to learning. There's just something every day. And so it's identity stuff. It's reading the room. It's knowing what that person needs in that moment at that time, and that every single person is so different, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and you've got to be able to find a way to give to all. Yeah.
In the lead up to the episode, we were lucky enough to talk to like your coaching colleagues, your family, but there was a missing part, and that was, I guess, some of the kids that you get to coach. So it's one thing for an adult to say you should see the influence that he has. It's another thing to have a conversation with one of those, young men, and it was a really profound one. The particular gentleman I talked to, outstanding young man, and I've been lucky enough with my football club, Melville, to be in and around, dressing rooms, young, impressionable people. And I think something that I probably took for granted and didn't realise until you have some conversations is the influence of a non-family role model on someone who's making their way in the world. What's your experience been like with that?
So in my own example with my own boys, like one of the most important things was we recognise and we know that we need to be able to talk to people. And so with our boys, it was like, hey, if you ever have a tough situation, tough point in life, who else could you talk to? And they go, oh, Ben, Sharon, Wade, Rach. It's like, yeah, cool. So we know that that's important, right? If I go a really long-winded story, when I grew up, we went to Nana and Granddad's every Sunday and had a roast for lunch, and our family was everywhere and our family was local. Now we're really, really dispersed geographically. And if you look at our photo gallery on the wall, all of the experiences and all the adventures that we've had in our life, our boys, they're the people that have influenced them just as much as we have. So it's our friends and it's our friends' friends, it's their coaches, and they're all on that wall. So with particular gentlemen and question here or boys in our team, I think you have to wear some hats. You have to be a dad sometimes. And that's like, here's the line. Sometimes you just got to be an open ear. Sometimes you've just got to be someone you don't necessarily want. You got to confront conflict a little bit too sometimes and just say, hey, is that the best thing in the interest of you? And then also at the same time, it's kind of like, hey, do you know who you are? Do you know how special you are? Do you know what you've got? Do you know what you can do? Do you know what opportunities are in the world for you? And so that's the nurturing space as well. Yeah.
It's interesting because identity, especially young men, is kind of wrapped up in who they might be. And I wondered, and also this particular person wondered, and he wanted to ask me a question on his behalf, which was, would Carl still care about me if I wasn't the athlete I am?
Oh, 100% I would. Yeah. I mean, he's come into the environment that I'm in because he's an athlete, because he plays. But the lengths that I go to for him, it's not because of his athletic ability at all. It's because he's a great human being. And there's other kids too that I've shared that level of time with, care for, buying them protein powder, whatever I needed to do in the moments. I'll care for anyone that's prepared to care for me. I think that was one thing that I will touch on there is that for a long time I hugged everyone and never hugged back. And I think that when there's that mutual space, it's like there's a care for and a care. That's because care's two-way, right? Like you have to be cared for just as much as you care. And in this particular case, he cares for his team, his teammates, his school, and his community.
And that's one of the things that sport kind of can teach that classrooms or schools don't necessarily cater for, is the lessons that you learn through sport carry you through the rest of your life. Yeah,
and that's a big part of it because our structure of society is changing, right? Like broken homes without dads, mums. We're jostling. We're influenced by social media. There's all the stuff that's happening, and then when we go to schools, school charter and all the funding and everything relies on metrics, numeracy, literacy. Whereas rugby, for me, is an opportunity to talk about and share connection, emotion, care. Because if you know anything about in high-performance sport, and particularly in a team, the higher the level of connectedness that you have, the greater the probability of success as a team on the field. Don't get me wrong, I'm a super competitive person. I love winning games. But the job I have to do is get these guys super connected, So in those pressure moments, they can make good decisions and they know that the man inside them's there or the man that's going to take that tackle inside them, whatever. So it's all that connection piece. In a classroom, you go there, you open your book, you're there, you're delivering answers to a question or writing an essay for you, for that credit, for that career. And ultimately, when you walk out of school, you're going to be dumped in a job where you've got to connect to a whole lot of people in the room or in the workplace. And you've got to be able to relate. And I think Te Awamutu College does an incredibly good job of a whole lot of those areas, particularly in year 13. Put your hand up to be head student. Well, I think they had 19 boys apply this year, and they have to go to the panel, they have to do an interview, and that's a cool experience. So those are the things outside the classroom that are really, really important, for sure.
Where does fashion sit with some of these young men? Because recently Barkers have come on board to support Stephen and I in our fashion sense. And one of the things they're looking for is either grooming or fashion tips from the people that we speak to. But have you seen some rascal things on the playground? Do high schools still have playgrounds on Mufti Day around Te Awamutu College? Or have you got a fashion tip maybe that you would impart on some of the young men that are in your rugby program?
I would be the last person on earth that you should ask this question to. Like, I even asked Steve, what's dress code for this? He's like, just be Carl Sheridan. And it's like, if you asked anyone to draw a picture of me, I'll have shorts and T-shirt on. Fashion is, it's each to their own. Like you said, dress like Carl Sheridan. I reckon it's cool. Like, it's a really cool platform to experiment, right? Like in Barkers and the likes, they sell all sorts of gear. Just try it, wear it. You know, if you feel good, then that's really, really cool, I think. But me, shorts, T-shirt all day. Yeah.
That's a great tip. If you feel good, wear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the first line of the email you sent, I want to go back to the top, it was talking about a man of the community making a difference in people's lives and sharing stories. And I love these low-key legends. Like you've done, there's been so much in this episode. But I think as a bit of a takeaway from what I'm hearing is before you can help others and put that care into the world and give time and space, you kind of need to understand yourself, right? You need to do the work on yourself before you can help others. Is that right?
I think that's the best way to do it. If you want to care for others and get yourself involved in the community, by all means do it. But I still think that you can work for years and years and years and years giving, and at the end feel like you're on an island by yourself and you're empty. So the work that you do for yourself first just empowers you to own the things that you're great at, accept the things that you're not, pull people together and build something together. It's the power of people that's we're going to survive off. It's the power of our communities. It's the power of our board. It's the power of each other, rather than me and myself alone. And I think that's one thing. If you can do the work yourself, you know what you're good at, you know what you're not. And if you talk to enough people, you know that the last 20% of anything is Carl's worst place. Like, I just can't do it. But I've got incredibly good people around me, and collectively we make something special. Yeah.
How do we make more Carl Sheridans? Like
it's a scary thought.
Yeah, but
well, a man,
you know
and
what
a
I mean.
woman.
Like teachers and volunteers, they're not putting their hand up perhaps as much as they used to. You're here and you're telling this great story about why they should. Is that how we do it? But more people talking about the importance of how it's going to help people?
Yeah, I think it has to be. Yeah. I think it's, for a lot of people, it's very overwhelming. If you ask someone to coach a rugby team for an entire year, like, oh, I'll help. But I think we need to tell more stories. I think when I first moved to Waipa, they just launched this, like, Waipa, the home of champions, and it was rowers. We have a high performance centre in Cambridge, right? Like, there's all these wonderful rowers. They're not from here. The midwife who gave birth to 350 children over there's some real local heroes, and we just need to start talking about local heroes. And so one of my bugbears around this, and this is, I hope this answers the question, is that we are surrounded by excellence in everything. Advertising, right? It's always perfection and excellence. Coach for Life, prime example. Use high-performance coaching. You guys, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot of celebrities, but they are great human beings and they're telling stories, but it's excellence. Everything is, if you go into my kids' Instagram feed, it's bodies that are perfect. We've all seen and heard all that
They're
stuff.
following us, are they?
Yes. But the issue there, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we're surrounded by excellence, right? So we're here, and excellence is here, and we all think we need to be there. But that's why I call it about being a celebrity in my own lunchbox. It's like, no, man, like, it starts here, and then it starts just here.
Yeah, tell me about that phrase, celebrity in my own lunchbox. I hadn't heard it before.
I wrote a book that I don't really talk about, but it was called How to Be, it's the Diary of an Average Man, How to Be Extraordinarily Average, right? Like, and there was just, each of the chapters was just about being, how good am I in my world? And being content with that too. And just being okay with who you are, giving yourself the time and space again and again. I'm sorry, but that's just what this is all about. And then going, I'm this. Go to do that every day, and then you can just accomplish amazing things in the world. And then your own lunchbox is just a metaphorical thing for something that you have every day that you look into, and that's yourself.
It is an interesting notion to be content with what you are doing and not wanting to go further.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's lots of oxymorons in life, isn't there? But I think that there's still an aspiration for me, an intention. I'm an idealist. I want to change the world.
Yeah, but do you want to be the All Blacks coach, for example?
Would you?
No.
No. It's not about rugby. You know, I bumped into the ceilings of what it's like in the government space, and I'm not really interested. I think I can make a difference where I am.
Sorry, is it about making better humans for you?
Yes, yeah. And that statement's thrown around willy-nilly, right? Like, but, you know, push comes to shove. When you're under pressure and you're losing a game of rugby, what are you thinking? Like most coaches, it's performance-based, right? For me, I'm like, cool, how am I going to address the boys at the end of this? How am I going to make good on this? And you know what? Like, if you genuinely, even at the highest level of sport, if you ask them why they're there, it's like because they're their mates and they have fun.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. And my boys, particularly, the first 15 boys, fun is training hard, giving it everything together. But I have aspirations, but aspirations is to build more soldiers and ambassadors for our communities. But we still love my work and working with professional athletes and coaching. And, yeah, it's being content with the tools that I have, learning more and then going, hey, where's this adventure lead? Where does it take me?
Yeah, there's a few strings to the bow that I'm keen to pick at there. You mentioned why I'll get to soon, but you also do golf coaching and caddying, right? Was it golf coaching? Because I'd heard a story that you'd worked with a player and you got them from a 5 handicap to a +5. And I'm interested in how you did that and what messaging you're feeding and how you would describe what that is.
Yeah, I take those opportunities as a bit of an experiment. And that particular case, I didn't get highly technical at all. Like, I'm not qualified to give anyone some technical knowledge around a golf swing. It's a pretty difficult sport. But a lot of it for him was just self-belief, self-worth. A lot of it was just, what are my values, where am I going, and what does that look like in golf? And, like, understanding it in the moment that we're all nervous, we're all scared, but you can't erase that. It's like, push that aside and let's get really, really specific about how we're going to go and play this golf shot. And it's not always going to work, right? But you've got to practice that. So for many, many years, if you play golf and you're nervous and you're scared the whole time, and that just becomes a really, really well-rehearsed thing. It becomes a belief system. But for this particular guy, it was just like, no, let's get real specific. Let's hone in on detail. And I did point out that his alignment was shit. But, you know, and all of a sudden it's just golf just went nuts. And every time he needed some assistance, it was just a little bit of a recorrection around his personality. I don't think it was anything to do technically with golf, but it was more about his why and who he was on the golf course. And that's a pretty big gap for someone who doesn't quite understand what I'm talking about. But it was just bringing a really, really big intent to who he is in his golf.
Yeah. Well, that transitions nicely into the why, because I asked you if you could send a few lines about, you know, some parts of your life and prep for this. And you sent me back a CV, which was the most incredible CV I've ever seen. And it wasn't really a CV. It was just this kind of graphic representation of who you are across about 8 pages. And it seemed to me like this is what you do for others, right? This is helping understand their why in visual form. But so is that what you do? And what does that look like? If I was to work with you as a client, how would you help me understand what my why is?
So first and foremost, we just spend lots of time together telling stories. I think, and this is hard for me to say, but I genuinely have a bit of a gift around reading people. And so we talk about stories, we share stories. I've got a lot of questions. If you know how I operate, I'm a blank canvas guy. So if I come work with you, Steve, it'll be, here's a blank whiteboard or a blank sheet of paper, let's go. let's go down the rabbit hole together and see what happens. And the most difficult thing for any single human to do is to be honest with themselves. And when I say honest, I mean deeply, deeply honest. And so my role in that is to stand beside you and take you on that journey. And then through the stories, through the information, through your ancestral chain, whatever it is that we find and we bring up, and then I'll kind of build a metaphorical story for you. I'll build a story that you can relate to that's in a book form. Could be a video, could be an audio, could be a song. I don't know. Again, blank canvas leads me to just being really open-minded about how I develop your why story or your manifesto, and it gives you, and I've always said it's called personal distillation. So I'm just distilling you down to the most pure form of you, and it just doesn't change. Like, there's some really key characteristics about us all as humans that is authentic, and then how do we go about doing that? How do we go about using those tools on a daily basis to be awesome? It's as simple as that, but it is quite a complicated process. But that's the beauty for me. I get all this data, and it's like the Matrix, and then and then I just find something, and sometimes it comes to me at the most random times. I'm like, got it, let's go. And then we just, hone in on there. So that's, and the why stuff is, it ends up being a document most of the time, but it can be a story. And it's just your guiding principles, right? Like, are you giving us, and then I guess the action after that is the evolution of you within that story. Am I giving myself the time and space to be that person? And I don't think I've had anyone in the 10 or 12, 15 years of doing it who said that's not me. And I don't think I've ever had anyone go, I'll just take that because that sounds good. It's genuine. And it's amazing the stuff that we can find through storytelling. Yeah.
Earlier when you were talking about weight and numbers, and you said numbers, we can talk about those later, and you kind of responded to the numbers as well.
Yeah.
Like what is there? What is there around numbers that's important to talk about?
From my perspective, it's arbitrary. Like, we put such my target was 100 kgs. My target. Who the fuck set that target? I did, because I thought that's a nice round number. But in the end, like, that became more of a noose around my neck than an actual something that I wanted to go and achieve. It became a burden versus actually the process of putting building blocks in place that'll help me further down the line. And it became like, I don't know, I don't know if I'm telling your story, but it became kind of like an obsessive thing in a really unhealthy way, to the point where if I was out in public or I'm eating something, I'm thinking, well, who's looking around at me and seeing what I'm eating and making a judgment based on that because of this thing that's been put out there? Well, no one's making a worse judgment than I am on myself. So it was just an odd situation to be in that became quite, I found personally, a really unhealthy situation to find myself in and counterproductive to what I was actually trying to achieve.
Yeah, 100%. You couldn't say it any better. Like, we're an energy center, and we're built on emotions, right? Like, our feelings create our behaviors. We can't put numbers to that stuff. People try, don't get me wrong, but profits about maximum, minimum numbers. It's money, it's weight, it's numbers, it's numbers. But it's like, when we actually feel and we give ourselves time and space, it's like, I can be the best person I can be, and the numbers are irrelevant, because we need to navigate the grey space. We need to know when we're good and when we're not, but expand ourselves to be all of those wonderful things. And, the 90 kilo mark killed me. Like, literally, it was just terrible. In business, it's the same. I understand business and money and all those other things, but when you focus on your people and you care for your people just as much as you care for yourself, then they'll give you blood, sweat and tears. And, Simon Sinek says that forever. It's like, those are the important things. And again, it comes back to the time and space and care thing. It's like, we just got to care more about the people. And let them, and I've always said as a coach, my role isn't to get the most out of an athlete. It's to nurture, guide and teach them to get the most out of themselves. And that's my job. But numbers aren't a part of it.
You mentioned earlier, when you were sort of telling the story, that you'd had a few relapses, or I'm not sure if you used that word, but it hasn't all been sort of a straight linear path out. And part of sharing your story is to help others, who I'm sure there'll be thousands of people listening that can relate, perhaps not to bulimia, but their own thing they're going through. Can you tell us about what it's like when you fall back into these holes, and how you get out, and what tools you've built to make that, I guess, a quicker transition through those dark times?
Yeah. So I've always told the story of when you're on the bus and the door's welded shut and you go around and round and round the block and you're trying to get off, but you can't, and the bus just gets faster and faster and faster and then just explodes. And that's my head, and that's what happens. And the only reason it happens is because I don't give time and space to myself. And I go on and on about it. So one of the best things I've been able to do is just give myself that moment of time to breathe. And what ended up happening was I'm so intense as a human being and so emotional that I became hyper focused. So the pain in the foot became the only thing in my life for like 2 or 3 years. And it meant, I guess the thinking that comes off the back of that was like, I can't do anything. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I'm filled with envy watching other people be mobile. I'm filled with all of this hatred towards people because they're mobile and I'm not. But in that moment, like if you give yourself some time and space and you can just expand your mind. So through a bit of breath work, really simple breath work, box breathing, everyone knows about it, but you have to practice it. You have to practice it day and night, every day. You can just expand your mind and recognize that the pain in the foot or whatever you're suffering is just a small part of who you are. In that moment, it might feel like that is everything. And it was like that for me. But I said, even through my suffering, I forgot how awesome I was. I forgot what makes me, me. I forgot about the people in my life. I forgot about all those things. And so that time and space is just an expansion of the mind, just through your breath, to see that you've got creative Carl, you've got awesome Carl, but you've got pain, you've got grief. I'm still hanging on to some of the stuff from my youth and my bulimia and stuff, but that's all part of me. But with that expansion in the mind, that's a little bit trippy and a bit weird, but like through the breath work, you can recognize that you are much, much more than those little bits of suffering, that you are much more to many, many more people than you actually think. And that's the problem, is because all you think about is the one thing. You get fixated on the 90 kilos or you get fixated on the suffering, and that becomes your anchor, right? And so forever, I'm going to say forever, for more recent times, everything about me was anchored in bulimia, suffering, belonging, whereas now I'm not free of it because it's just a part of who I am. And hearing these stories today brings that to life. So the biggest tool, the biggest thing that saved me was just breath, time and space, expansion, and just starting to write down how great I am.
Are you a journaler?
In a way, yes. I've started, through the time and space model that I'm using, I've started writing poetry. I didn't know. I don't even know if it's poetry. It's just words, because when you write stories, it's recollection of facts and details, or it's imaginative, whereas poetry has a time and a meter, and it has language and it has emotion, and it can be really, really visceral when you read it. And that's been a really nice way. It's taken me 5 months to write a poem that's nice. Like literally every poem I write is just like, I'm dark and it's this and it's this. But it's been awesome. And so I keep a record of the poems and I reread them a little bit, and it blows me away. Because what I'm actually doing is I'm writing from my heart. Like I don't think about writing. I'm just going, okay, cool, what does this sound like, feel like out in my body? And it's just a piece of writing, and then I can read it and go. And then and the most important thing is at the end of each of the poems I put context, because that gives me time and space to think about what I'm feeling at that moment. What does that poem mean to me? What's happening right now in and around me? And Van, who the guy I work with, is really, really cool. My coach, he talks about what were the days like leading up to that poem? And then kind of just, again, time and space, like recognizing what's happening in my life that got me to that point. Because if I get there and I don't use the poetry, or I don't journal, or I don't talk, or I don't storytell, then it just becomes this thing that's just buried in my head, and it just gets over and over and over again. I just lose my way really quickly. And that's kind of what you're talking about with the relapse stuff. And I can go, cool, I need beer, or I've overeaten.
Is food a vice that you might look to turn to?
Yeah, it has been forever. More so in a celebrationary way. I never really ate because I was sad. It was kind of a strange one. And drinking. I mean, I've given up drinking more recently. And the eating side of things, I'm now, after all of this time, attempting to build a better relationship with food. Yeah, like my belief system around food was crazy out the gate, weird. It was 6 meals a day. if you watch enough Instagram, you'll know 6 meals a day, protein prioritization, like calorie deficit. Wow. It's like, it's just not. It's not that at all. It's like, do I feel like eating? What do I feel like eating? Do I enjoy the flavor of that? And so now I'm taking photos of the food that I eat just to remind myself of what I've been doing. Yeah. So that's a journaling process, I guess, in a lot of ways. Yeah.
So we got here because of an email, which was a couple of months ago, and you're finally here. And then another email arrived in my inbox this morning, and it was from you, and it said, this was a challenge to write. I found myself fighting my thinking till I gave myself the time and space. Ironically, the manifesto is a result of living out my manifesto. And if it's all right with you, you've got it printed here. I'd love for you to tell us what this is and how long it took you to write, and then read it.
Yeah, so this is kind of my own why document, something I've been doing wonderfully for a long time and been very good at. Always found it really challenging to do my own work, hence the relapse stuff and the ever changing Carl, and the version of Carl is always searching for something. But I think I've more recently found what it is that's important to me and what I genuinely value. Like, I'll give you a quick example. It's like, if I value my health above all because I want to be an able and active grandparent, what am I saying yes to and what am I saying no to? So if I say yes to alcohol, what am I saying no to? I'm saying no to the opportunity to probably do that because it's not good for my health. And so there's been a process of just working through my values and what my values are, and then kind of writing my own why document. And it's something that I can read every morning. It's something that's attached to me. And I can actually share this with people that are really close to me who can challenge me on this, because I reckon that's pretty cool too. Like, that's an important thing. It's not just me in my head. It's, again, in the communities I work in, whether it's my family, my workplace, the rugby, whatever it is, I can be challenged. And Manifesto it's the document of Carl Sheridan without all the stories, really. Yeah.
Are you okay sharing it?
Yeah, I'd love to read it. I genuinely think if you ever find the opportunity, anyone that's listening, watching, whatever, spend some time and space with yourself and write something like this for yourself and just see if it resonates with the people around you, and ask for validation from people and say, but if it sits specially with you and it feels great for you, then that's the right thing for you to do. Yep. So far away. This might be interesting. In the still of morning lives the choice to sit with myself before the world arrives. Those moments are mine. They are where I give to myself first, where I prepare to meet the day. The rituals change with the season. Sometimes breathwork, sometimes a walk, sometimes heat or cold or movement, but the intention stays the same. Create time and space for me, time to slow my breath until thought and rhythm move as one. Space to listen, to feel, to be. Each act is a form of care, not indulgence, foundational. When I fill myself first with breath, with movement, with stillness, I meet the world with calm, purpose, and presence. I believe in care. Not the soft kind that folds, but the kind that stands tall in the wind. The kind that gives shape to courage. The kind that holds space when others cannot. The kind that hugs back. With an open chest, I move into the world ready to connect. It is courage to lead with my heart, not hide behind it. When that honesty is met by another, there is a spark, something living. That is where connection begins to breathe. From time and space comes creativity. Give me a blank canvas, a quiet moment, a chance to build, write, move, or dream, and I become alive. Creativity is not limited to art alone. It is the act of bringing something real into the world. It is how I give form to what I feel. I have learnt that to give from emptiness is not kindness. It is slow decay. To pour from a full cup, I must fill it first. Care starts within, then moves outward. It builds communities where people can stand in their mana, seen, valued, and connected first. My vision reaches beyond my reflection. I want to rebuild communities through care, beginning with self and radiating outwards. to create spaces where people feel safe enough to be themselves, to listen, to give, and to grow. This is my work, to live with care, to move with connection, to create with freedom, to give with fullness. And one day, when people look back, I hope they will say, I was the man who cared above all. And because I did, the world became a little bit better. Thank you, fellas.
It's beautiful, Carl. Man, power of words, eh?
Yeah, and this is not words I've typed and looked at and changed and stared at. This is just right from my heart.
What's interesting is that the themes and the messages have come through in the conversation that we've just had. It's been anchored by the work that you've done. It comes out naturally.
Yeah.
And then when you hear it back, it's like, well, that's the whole conversation that we've just had written down.
And the most beautiful thing for me is I've still got a chance to live that out. Because for a while I didn't think I'd get the chance.
Carl, I'm going to send you the prep document we have because I read some of the words at the start from people we've included their voices, but there's lots more, and there's so much love and appreciation and acknowledgement of the work that you're doing in the community and the lives you're changing. I'm just so thankful that you reached out and emailed and came to share your story because I agree, like you're the hero in your own lunchbox is there are important stories to share because it's not all celebrity and it's not all, people that are world beaters. It's people doing incredible things. And I think it's really cool for you to hear that how much people appreciate you. So I'm going to email that to you. And also I would love to link up with you and do some of that why work because I think for the podcast and for me personally, I can just see the huge benefit in it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be incredible. Yeah. And I think it's the first time ever I've heard people speak about me like that. So thank you for that part of the process too, because I just don't think we take the time and the space to tell people that we love them and why they're amazing. And you're left to figure it out for yourself, and that's pretty hard.
Do you feel like you've got the messages that you wanted to out of today?
Yeah, man. Like this is my work now. And I'm literally the most grateful person in the world right now to have the opportunity to talk to you guys. And what I love about this is it's just human beings connecting, telling stories. And like I say, just let's go and do that more and more often with people that we love and care for. And let's see where we can take this adventure. Yeah.
Love it, Carl. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, man. Thank you.